Good morning, and thank you for the invitation. So I'm Ludovic Denoyer. I'm professor at University Pierre et Marie Curie in the Machine Learning and Information Access team. This is not written here, but I'm also co-head of the Data Science Master Program. So if you want to find some interns, you can ask me. And today the talk will be about machine learning on a budget, and more precisely, it will be about using deep reinforcement learning for learning systems able to adapt themselves to some kind of budgeted constraints. So let me start with a question. So you can see two pictures here, and the question is, what is the difference between how human classifies these pictures and how, let's say, machine learning model, a deep neural network, for example, will classify this picture? So let me show you the answer. So let's start by the deep learning model. So you have one picture, you take your favorite neural network, you put the picture as an input to this neural network, and then the neural network will make some complex computation and predict that this is a tiger. Okay, it's very simple. For the second picture, you take exactly the same model, you just change the input, and depending on the input, the computation will not be exactly the same. The results of the computation will not be the same, and then the system will say, okay, it's a forest. Now, let's take a human. So you take your favorite human, you put the picture as input to the human, so you show him the picture, and then the human will say, okay, it's a tiger. And then you show him the second picture, and the human will say, oh, okay, this one seems more difficult, let me think a little bit about this. Then the human will take time to get more information into the picture, to analyze the picture. Then he will think again, and at the end he will say, okay, it's a tiger. Because I don't know if you can see him, but in the forest you have a tiger hidden in the wood. Okay? So what I want to illustrate here is the fact that actually when you are making machine learning, when you are using machine learning model, you are using some very strong assumption, and the first assumption you are making is that the input you put as an input to your model is a priori known. What I mean is that typically when you want to classify a picture, you have a data set of pictures, so you already have the information, and then you will use this information into your machine learning model. But in the real life, usually what you have to do before being able to compute something is to get the information. And in classical machine learning model, you don't have this ability to learn how to acquire information. So this is a strong assumption. The second one is that you are always using the same neural network, the same model, for making classification on different pictures. But in the previous examples, what you can see is that you have some, let's say, difficult inputs and some easy inputs. And on the easy one, you want to spend less time to make computation, and on the difficult one, you want to spend more time to make computation. So actually, let's say, most of existing machine learning models are not able to adapt their computation the way they are making the prediction, depending on the input. And at last, one other aspect is that the model you are using, you as a machine learning researcher or as a data scientist, you choose the shape of your model. And the model is not able to choose himself its own size and to adapt its own size to the difficulty of the problem. So one of my research direction from 2009 to now is to try to develop a new family of machine learning model. And what I want to do is to make models able to learn how to get information, to learn which computations to apply on particular inputs, and to be able to do that knowing a set of operational constraints. What I mean is that the model you will use on a cluster of GPUs is not the same model that you will use on your mobile phone. And what I would like to do is to be able to learn to define models able to adapt himself to the operational constraints. So let me now explain how we do that at Ellipsis. So the inspiration comes from the problem of diagnostic, medical diagnosis. Okay, imagine you have a doctor, you have a patient, and the doctor wants to predict if the patient is sick or not. So the first thing the doctor will do is to ask some question, because you have a patient, but you have no information on him. So you have to acquire information by asking some questions. And then, depending on the answers to these questions, you will decide, as a doctor, you will decide some medical exams to pass. and depending on the result of the exam, you will make some new exams and so on, until you have enough confidence in your prediction, and then you will predict if the patient is sick or not sick. And in this process, what you can see is first, it is a sequential process. You have different steps, so asking questions, choosing exams, thinking, and so on. These different steps are action of different types. It can be acquisition of information, but also computation, taking the results of an exam and try to understand what you see in these results. And also what you can see is that in this process, you have to deal with a kind of budget, because as a doctor, you cannot decide to make all the possible exams. It's too expensive. So you have to find a trade-off between the prediction quality and the cost of the medical diagnosis. And this is the inspiration of this work. So, okay, I have two slides with some equations. So now, how can we do that in machine learning? So you have input, x. X can be anything, a vector, a picture, something like that. You want to predict an output, y. Let's say it's classification, for example. So y is a label. And now, instead of just taking x and computing something to predict y, you take x, and then you decide a sequence of actions. So in these budgeted sequential learning models, you have a set of actions, h1 to he. I will show you exactly what are these actions. And the system will automatically decide a sequence of actions. It can be acquisition, it can be computation, it can be whatever you want. And then, at the end of the T step, you will predict y, the label, typically, depending on both the input and also the actions you have chosen on this input. Moreover, in this setting, you also have a function, c, c of h, which is the cost of the actions. Typically, for a doctor, the actions h are the medical exams, and the cost is the price of the medical exams. And now, by defining this notation, we can define a new learning objective, so a function which reflects the quality of the system. And this learning objective is now composed of both delta. Delta is the quality of your prediction, as in classical machine learning models. And you have also this term plus lambda c, and lambda c is the budget, is the price of the prediction. And what you want to do is to minimize this function. It means that you want to find a good trade-off between the prediction quality and the budget. And what you can see is this formalization is that now, instead of having a model just taking an input and predicting an output, you have a model which is able to decide how it will behave, how this computation is made. Okay? So instead of learning a model based on a criterion which is the predictive performance, the classical classification error, for example, now what we want to make is to find a model which, on average, is able to find this trade-off between quality, predictive quality, and cost and budget. Okay, so let me show you an example of this kind of model. And here I focus on a sequential acquisition model. So model able to learn how to get information. So typically, in this context, a model has an input, for example, a picture. At the beginning, it will have access to just a part of this picture. And depending on the content of this part, it will decide to acquire a new piece of data, a new piece of this picture. So it will here decide to go down, to take a new information, then to go right, to take a new information. And when he considers that it has enough information, the system will automatically classify the picture here as a Eiffel Tower. So the principle of this model is to start with nothing, to decide where to get information, and to decide when to classify, when to predict, when the model considers that it has enough confidence in its prediction. So the next question is how can we learn this kind of model? And as you can see, it's a sequential model. And the way we are learning sequential model in machine learning is by using reinforcement learning techniques. I will not explain exactly what is reinforcement learning, but it's this idea to learn to control an agent which will maximize the reward. Here it's almost the same thing. We have this predictive agent And the goal is to minimize the trade-off between predictive performance and budget. So we can use classical reinforcement learning technique by defining an agent with different types of actions, like acquisition of information, or like classification, and so on. Let me show you some example of application of this family of models. So on the left, you can see an application to the problem of text classification. So here, the idea is to model the sequential reading process, the fact that when we read sentence by sentence. So here the system has one acquisition action which consists in getting the next sentence. So the idea is to make prediction by reading as few sentences as possible in a textual document in order to speed up the classification model. And what you can see on the bottom left histogram is that when learning this kind of model, first, we have the same performance than classical text classification methods, but we are able to obtain the same accuracy by just reading a few sentences in the document. And what is interesting is that the model is able to classify by just reading 10% of the sentences of a document, or 20 or 30, and depending on the difficulties of the input document, it will automatically decide to read more sentences. And at the end, when the system decides to read all the sentences, usually he will make a mistake because the document is too difficult to classify. So he reads all the sentences and he is not able to decide what is a good category. On the right, you can see the same kind of model applied to image. So here the idea is the same, but we are modeling the ACE trajectory into a picture. So we can acquire different pieces of picture at different resolution level. And typically, we have the same kind of results. It means that we are able to have the same classification accuracy, but by getting only a small fraction of pixel in the pictures. And we also made some work. So on the left, it's perhaps less interesting. It's just to say that we are able to handle different types of budgeted constraints. It can be a max budget, it can be an average budget, it can be a relational budget where you have different prices depending on what you did before and so on. But on the right, perhaps it's a better illustration. It's on recommendation. So typically on recommendation, if I want to recommend you some movies, I don't have information about what you like, so I have to ask you some questions. Do you like Star Wars? Do you like Star Trek? I don't know. And depending on the answers, I will adapt my questions in order to get more information and then to be able to make good recommendations. This is called cost-start recommendation. And typically, this model can be applied to cost-start recommendation in order to automatically build interviews. And what is interesting here is that you clearly have a budget in this problem, because when you ask questions to a user, if you ask 1,000 questions, I'm not sure that the user will stay. So you have to carefully choose which questions to ask in order to make good predictions. Okay, but in all these models, we are using classical reinforcement learning techniques, and the problem is that when you have too many possible actions to do at each time step, the problem becomes too difficult to learn, and so we need very big computers, and it's too expensive, and we are not able to use this family of models for very complex problems. So in order to simplify this model and to speed up this model, what we can do is to add some assumptions. In the previous slide, I just say I have a budget, and this budget, it can be a time in milliseconds. It can be your memory consumption. It can be your CPU consumption. It can be any kind of budget. And the problem is that if we have this complex budget, we are just able to use, let's say, classical reinforcement learning techniques. But if we are making some assumption on the budget, and for example, in this example, if we consider that we know the price of the information, so typically it's the case in medical diagnosis. In medical diagnosis, you know the price of each medical exam. If we have this additional information, then we are able to use a deep reinforcement learning technique, and using deep reinforcement learning technique will clearly speed up the learning process and will allow us to develop model on more complex tasks. So here, we consider that each feature has a particular cost, Ci, and we know this cost. And we have developed some models able to learn in a few steps to acquire multiple features at each time step. So in only few steps, it's like asking many questions at each time steps. And this model will automatically learn to aggregate information because you are getting information, so you want to aggregate this information at each time step and to use this aggregation in order to make prediction. And what is interesting is that you can learn this model on GPUs and this kind of computers. So how can we do that? We do that using a recurrent neural network, as Eric explained just before. So we have here a recurrent neural network. Z is the latent space. So the latent state, the goal of this state is to aggregate the collected information. And at each time step, you have alpha. Alpha is the question you ask, which features I want to acquire. It's not exactly a classical neural network because it's a stochastic process. It means that at each time step, the system will sample, based on a distribution, a learned distribution, will sample a set of features to acquire. Then this feature will be get in the input data point, will be aggregated. You have a new state, and you go multiple steps like this, and at the end, you predict the output y. Okay, and here what you can see is that this kind of model can be, let's say, summarized as a recurrent neural network, and if it can be summarized as a recurrent neural network, you can use stochastic gradient descent techniques. Since the model is stochastic, it's not exactly gradient descent. It's inspired by what we call policy gradient, because you have this stochastic step. So you have to make gradient descent over the expectation of the performance of the system, but it's very close to gradient descent. And you have here the expression of the gradient. You have two terms, one which will control which features, which information to get, and the second one which will control the quality of the prediction, and the last one, which will control the budget. Okay? What is interesting here is that you have these three terms. One about the behavior of the model, one about the prediction quality, and one about the control of the budget, because you don't want to spend too much money to make this prediction. Let me just show you one example of behavior of this model on a very simple task. So here it's image classification on the left. What you can see in the first column, you have these yellow pixels, and yellow pixels are the pixels that have been chosen by the system at the first step. So it means that at the first step, without any information, the system will acquire this pixel in yellow on the left. And then at the second step, it will decide to acquire the blue one. And what you can see is that for the different examples, so 0, 8, 6, the blue pixels are not at the same positions, because the model is adaptive. So depending on the information collected at the first step, you will decide which information to collect as the second one. And then you have red pixel in the third column, but I'm not sure it's you can see this pixel. But okay, and here what you can see, yes, what you can see is that the system will adapt its behavior to the difficulty, to the input, and we'll have, let's say, a kind of natural behavior. On the right, it's just a figure saying that by getting just 10% of the pixel, you have the same performance than if you acquire all the pixels in the picture. So you are able to make this prediction, to keep a good prediction quality at a low cost. Okay, let me finish with some perspective. What I did not say here is that at the end, you obtain a model able to predict under budgeted constraints. So you have a model which is able to predict fast, which is able to predict fast depending on the infrastructure on which this model is trained. Okay, so you will have some models for mobile phones, some models for cluster of GPUs, and the system is able to define particular model depending on your infrastructure. But when we learn this model, we make the assumption that we have all the information available. And learning is very, very, very slow. So what we are doing now is to try to extend this model in order to consider a budget, not a budget when you predict, but a budget also when you train the model. So typically, we want to move from model that predict fast to models that will learn fast. We are working on some meta-active learning techniques, and Gabriela Contardo, who is a PhD student, is working on this kind of problem. One other perspective is here I focus on prediction and data, and we are trying to do the same in some for agents. So we want to, yes, we want to do the same and to put budgeted constraints into living agents, so typically into robots that are doing something, and we want to help them to learn when to think and when to act. And the last thing is to continue this direction on human interaction, because in human-machine interaction, you have a budget. You can ask too many questions to a human, and we are working on some application of this model to human-machine interactions. That's it. Thank you.